So what all's been going on with you? I know you've been like all over the place. So you've been to like Florida twice.
Yes.
All kinds of stuff.
Got a lot of stuff going on down there right now. We're actually opening up our market down there for our short-term rentals, and I've got an owner that has a property down there that's a big, fancy property.
I've seen pictures.
I went down there with my wife, and it was like a semi-working vacation. And the last time I went down, it was just all business, and I was working the whole time. I literally only got to spend like an hour and a half on the beach while I was down there the last time, but. Man, I tell you what, it's just crazy the stuff that's going on in this world. With the pandemic and everything starting to open back up, it's getting wild and crazy out there. And I really enjoy those trips like that. I really enjoy going down there. But it's kind of like this last time it was just work. Of
course, you guys have always taken like 2-3 vacations.
Yes, we have.
Like the entire time I know.
Yeah, and we're already planning.
Like we went down to Florida. Right. Again,
we're planning our May vacation right now. My wife turned around and said, "Well, what about middle of June, close to Father's Day and Mother's Day? Do you want to go down and do something with us and just our family?" And I'm like, "Well, you're talking about like 3 weeks in a row there, like literally turn around one time and then turn around and go again." And so yeah, we love to vacation. We love to get away. And
that's why you're the short term.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever I do that, I'm always scouting things out. What's funny is while I was down there, I had the place to stay in at the house, the beach house, big 4-bedroom. I had it to myself with a king-size bed, and I was there all by myself, and that was really nice. And then the last night I decided just to stay an extra night. And so, when you go online and you see these deals on Expedia, or, on Booking.com or one of them, I'm kind of an Expedia man, no endorsement there or anything, but that's what I use.
I use Expedia a lot, right. Or I think
Priceline's a good one as well, and I use it as I use it kind of as a guide. And so I went on there and I found basically a property right next door, and you go on there and you see these star ratings on there and everything, and you're like, well, there's some 1 stars and there's some 5 stars, and that's pretty much it. There was only like 3 or 4 ones, and there was a bunch of 5s.
This is crazy watching the short-term pro as a customer.
Oh yeah,
look at other properties.
Sure,
it's like I don't know. It'd almost be like watching Michael Jordan, like I don't know, like it'd almost be like him watching his buddy play basketball.
Sure,
or something. I don't
absolutely.
know, it's weird.
Yeah, because so when I go in, I see these 1-star reviews, and I'm going in, I'm like, I'm going to go pick this place apart. They say the front staff is this, it's that. They're not nice. The room was dirty, and when I got there, my room wasn't ready. And so you read all this crap on there, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to go in here and we'll pick it apart, because that's what I do. Right. I love that. It's kind of like, it's hard to impress me. It's hard to impress me with things like that. It's hard to impress me like when I go to a restaurant, because I've done so much cleaning, and I walk into a restaurant and it's filthy. I put some pictures on my short-term pro page the other day about a bathroom I was in that was just disgusting in a nice restaurant in our area. And so anyway, I go in there and I'm settling in a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to check this room out before I even unloaded anything out of my car. And I mean, the value was there, the price was good, and it was a couple $100. It's still a nice place to stay, but you always go into one thinking, yeah, this is going to be whatever it is. And honestly, I was pleasantly surprised. I really was. I mean, you and I've stayed at some pretty crappy places doing business.
Yeah, we've went to some places that were supposed to be bad that wasn't too bad, and then we went to places that was supposed to be like the best place around, and it's like,
Right. We've done 5 stars and we've done the 1 stars, or we've probably done the half stars. Didn't you stay somewhere one time? We won't mention that place we hate so bad, Tupelo, Mississippi. Okay, I just said it.
Yeah.
But if you're from Tupelo, I'm so sorry. You got Elvis, and you got a skanky restaurant that he used to eat in, and that's about it.
Although, ironically, I thought the best place in town was V's.
Yes, exactly.
V's,
exactly, the barbecue place.
Which we were joking around. I'm like, oh, of course, V's the best place in town. But
that's it.
Yeah, I thought that, and it was in a gas station. I thought that was the best. You walked in, it was clean, the food was good, the staff was very, they were very pleasant to deal with, and I had an overall better experience. But yeah, there's a place I stayed at because we were trying to do a business deal down there, and it took longer than I thought, and then I ended up having to stay there longer than I thought, and so by the end of it, I literally took, I don't remember if it was it might have been, it was either a desk or a whatever you call them, where you put your clothes in. I put that and then a chair in front of it, and I just scooted all because literally when you lock the door, even the deadbolt, you could sit and move it to where you seen a little gap in between, and it was like, I'm not, this ain't how I'm going to go out. Right. So I literally pretty much boarded myself up in there.
Sure, yeah, and it's crazy because sometimes you perceive value to be the cheapest price.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I don't believe that's the case in this world. I really don't. I think a lot of times we think just because we pay less for something means it's got more value or it's better for us. You know, I've got people all the time who are looking for a deal when they're coming to me. They're always like, "Hey, is that the best deal you can?" I'm actually looking at my phone right now, and I've got someone complaining about one of our properties. I'm watching it right now as we talk on this podcast about how they want a discount on a property that's worth 3 times the amount that we're getting for it. And it's funny how that works because, you know, some people think that everything is cheap or everything should be free or everything should be discounted at a price. What most people don't understand, you know, there's certain costs of doing business. You know, there's your time, there's your labor, you know, there's your energy, there's your peace of mind. You know, when we're budgeting things or when we're actually setting up a property, you know, we know what amount of money goes into that thing. We know the amount of money we got to pay for the staff. We got all the upkeep, all the maintenance. All those things come into play. And when you got somebody, we call them discount dollies. You know, they come, and the first thing they want to do is they want to start nitpicking things, and they want to start picking things apart. And you know, I don't do that. Even though I'm the short-term pro, I don't do that.
They pick it apart so they can hopefully get. So it's like going to a 5-star restaurant, eating 3/4 of the steak, and then be like, "Well, you know, that was a crappy steak. I want my money back." Exactly.
That happens, you know, and they're out there, and there's actually, I guess, on TikTok and there's other places where they're teaching people kind of how to do this. What they don't understand is they get a 20-year pro, 20-plus year pro that kind of knows how to play that game with them. And you know, you want to come at me with that kind of thing sometimes. You know, I'm like, well, you know, I'll play your game for a little bit, you know, and I may even give a little discount, or I may do this, or I may do that for somebody. I may help them out a little bit, but generally speaking, I mean, when people are looking at real value and real cost, you know, if you're getting a good price for something, there's a good chance that it's probably overpriced anyway. You know, most retail things are marked up 50, 100%. You know, I hear furniture's through the roof, you know, cars. You hear these car dealerships all the time talking about I'll give you 3 times Kelly Book value, Blue Book value on your your car. And you're like, well, you know, why don't you just give me that anyway on a regular day? You know, it's almost like they have to create this sell, or they have to create some sort of grab, bait and switch, get you in there, you know, and that's what's happening, I think, in a lot of the industries. You know, the hotel industry, the travel industry right now, it's really big because I think offering all these discounts, people have just got thinking, well, you know, well, it's a pandemic and you need the money, and I'll just, take advantage of that. And, you know, sometimes I think it's funny because, you know, they don't understand that there's so much behind the scenes that goes on before they get there. You know, to prep a property to these days, you got to spend extra time for cleaning, you know, extra time for making sure that things are right and things that are not dangerous, you know, that you don't have any germs and you don't use too many chemicals because you got people with allergies. And so, you know, sometimes I think in my case and in your case, I mean, we talk about the buddy discount all the time. You know, people always want to get the buddy discount from us. Tell folks a little bit about our experiences with that.
Well, like, as far as the buddy discount, I mean, you know, like you said, the thing is like, it seems like when you're first starting out, everybody wants you to just do it for free. Oh, like, let me just help you out. Let me just, you know, I like, for instance, if you're starting a landscaping business, it's like people want you, oh, you can come mow my yard for free. That way you can get, it's like, well, no, why don't you just support me? And like, yeah, I'll give you the buddy discount, but, you know, you get people that they get the buddy discount one time and they want to live off of it. And it's like, you know, we've had people in our lives where, you know, we started a music booking agency, obviously, and we started this booking agency, and it was like, yeah, you know, we're going to book you guys for free for a little while, you know, just to kind of help you out, but then at some point we're going to get our percentage later on down the road. And it's funny how, you know, when you do stuff to help people out, you sort of never get it back. So I think if you're going to do the buddy discount, you got to do it from the standpoint of like, I'm not getting my investment or my money back. Cause, you know, it's just not going to happen.
Right. So you go and you spend all this energy and all this time helping somebody out, and you know you take a loss, you take a risk, and you have all the energy built up into that, and you've spent all of your knowledge and your money and your time away from your family and kids. You know, it's like your job. You know, we talk about that things. You know, like when you have a job, you know, I call a job just over broke. You know, because that's what it is. You know, you're trading time for dollars, and this is a conversation you and I have had a lot of times. And, I know when I'm looking at my life, and I think I may have said it this morning in one of our conversations, I'm looking to do the least amount of real work for the most amount of money, so I can have the most amount of time and energy to spend on things that I really want to do and really enjoy. And I think the older you get, and I'm getting older, I believe that is really the true meaning of wealth. Wealth to me is not about having, the big fancy house and the big fancy cars and all that kind of stuff. To me, my time is so valuable to me because, I'm looking at this thing, 15 years from now, I'll be retired. Another, 20 years from now, I'm going to start dealing with, that whole old age thing. And then after that, who knows what happens. So
it's like with me, I'm constantly thinking I'm about 16 years and like 9 or 10 months away from my daughter basically going off to college. It's like I'd like to be able to pay for that. So for me, like I'm trying to spend as much time as I can with my daughter, but that's how I'm thinking too, is like how can I take, just like the other day, like I said, when I was bouncing my my investments on the Dodge coin, I sell it when it got up here, then I buy it again. So I just was riding it out. But I'm trying to figure out and constantly thinking, how can I make the most amount of money in the least amount of time? And it's not about being lazy, but if we all have 24 hours, some people make $10 million in those 24 hours. Some people make $240 in that amount, that amount of time. So it's like, it's not about being lazy. It's about, well, like we said, like guys like Elon Musk, they don't think linear. They think like this,
exactly.
Or like this.
Yeah, they're looking at it from 1,000 feet up. It's like you said this morning. I think 8 seconds on a bull versus 8 seconds sitting here talking is a whole world of difference.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
Talk about that a minute. That's great.
Literally, people, it's perceived value, and it's the way that you look at things. So, for me, it's like, okay, some people will say $25 an hour is oh man, that's a great job, but it's like if you make $25 an hour but you work 20 hours a week, you're better off making $20 an hour but working 60 hours a week.
Right.
In the way that you look at things. But like that's what I was saying this morning. It's the perceived value that people don't understand. Like 15 seconds is not a long time,
right?
Unless you're on a bull.
Sure.
And then it's like that's a long time.
Seems like a long time.
That's like world records, I'm pretty sure.
I remember back at school when we were like in elementary school, and teachers would be like, "Okay, we want everyone to stay silent for 5 minutes." Did that not seem like the longest time of your life? But if you're talking or the teacher's talking or you're watching a movie, 5 minutes goes by so quickly.
Or a moment of silence.
Exactly. Oh man, when you were in school, that would be something. Oh, put your head down, and I don't know if they still do that today, but when I was in school, it would be put your head down. Everyone's been talking too much. Put your head down and let's just all relax. And
let's have a moment of silence.
And everything would be like it seemed like it was hours and hours and hours, because really, I don't think our bodies really know how to handle that a lot of times. For me, I know you're a lot like that too. I don't have a lot of rest time in my life. I just don't. Because I'm busy doing something constantly.
Like it's like here we are on a Saturday and it's I don't know 8, 9 o'clock. I don't even know what time it is. 8:30ish, 9 o'clock. But we've been going since 6:30 this morning. It's like even on Saturdays. Like the latest I'll sleep. That's like I had an entrepreneur the other day wanted to meet. And it's like, all right, dude, what can you do, like 8 o'clock? Dude, 8 o'clock's early. And I'm like, 8 o'clock's early?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I'm normally, even on the weekends, the latest I might sleep in is like, if I really just feel like being lazy that day and I want to sleep in, I might sleep in to like 9:30 tops.
Right. Yeah, Steve Harvey always says, especially people who live like on the West Coast or live in another time zone, because, our whole world over here, operates around Eastern Standard Time Zone where we live, and it's like we're in a situation to where we're up first and we're already going and we're doing things, and if you're on the West Coast, like he said, you don't have time to sleep all day. Because people in New York are already doing things, and then you think about that. Well, people in England or in other parts of the world are already doing things, and so you don't have a lot of time sometimes that you think you have, because if given the opportunity, many people sleep about a third of their life, and then they're thinking, well, then I'm eating and driving and commuting another probably third of their life. So really, the amount of time that we spend on things that are frivolous and wasteful, are really crazy to me because, if I could do it, if I actually had the money to do what I wanted to do, I would buy an airplane, I would have a driver, and I would have someone who basically set my schedule for me every day within the parameters that I want them to set in. And what that would do for me is that would keep me zeroed in and focused on what I want to do. And so for me, I have to always be attentive to that in my own life. Because if you're saying to yourself, well, I'm just going to work faster and I'm going to just do a lot of stuff, but you don't really accomplish anything and you don't really have any goals, you don't have any, plan for your day, and you don't have really any plan for what you're going to do, you can get into, 3 or 4 hours of your day and you've really not accomplished anything. I call it like the NASCAR business. You're going in circles,
that happens
but
to me
you're
all the
not
time.
you're
During the
not
week.
accomplishing anything.
During the week, it's like I've got this long list of stuff that I want to do and get done and be productive, and then it's like when the weekend comes, it's like I kind of wake up and I'm like, all right, let me just sit down for a minute, relax, and let me play with the baby and hang out with my wife. And it's like, well, let's go, we'll eat breakfast, and then it's like I sit down and I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I got 20 things to do. What's the most important? And it's like it's like the amount of stuff I have to do. Sometimes it's like it gets me running in circles where I'm like I get overwhelmed, and then it's like I end up doing less. So focus is definitely something. And like I said, I think that's why like I said, it's important to remember that like when you guys are like you get what you pay for when you go to these short-term rental properties. Like I mean. That's why sometimes it's better to just pay more and have stuff sort of handled for you when you get there versus everybody's always looking for the cheapest way out. But it's like when we went to, I don't remember where that was. Was it? It was either Dallas
Is
or
it Texas?
Memphis?
Yeah, Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, yeah. When we decided to basically take the hotel that had the continental breakfast. Why? Because it was a little bit more expensive, but we got breakfast included. Right. We had way better sleep, so we wasn't tired. We wasn't sore the next day. We had a place to meet during the day if we were in between. Because I think we were going to a conference.
There was a conference, yes.
But if we were in between, I don't know, rah-rahs or whatever you want to call them, like in between meetings and stuff, we had a place where, and then it's like, hey, we're staying at the whatever. Oh, it's like, just everything about it was so much better versus had we spent. We might have saved an extra $30 or $40 a day, but I mean, by the time you eat food and all the stuff that was included, it's like you didn't really get the value.
Sure, we stayed in a place, if I remember correctly, that's the place we stayed in that had its own living room and desk, and like it was a suite and all these things for a hotel. At the time, it was really nice.
Which sidebar, funny story was that day it was like the big wig in the group that we were working with, and all these big wigs, and we decided to go to the restaurant across the street. It was called like Third Base.
Yeah.
And we're like, and so we're sitting there like, okay, there's this sports bar restaurant thing that's like right across from where we're staying. Let's meet up.
Right.
And we just thought it was like a sports bar, but then we go in there and it's like, Third Base.
Right.
Like, okay. Like we kind of went in there and I felt awkward the whole time.
Right.
We're trying to have this business meeting. And it was sort of like, I guess, like Twin Peaks almost or something. Right. But we just thought like, Third Base, that's funny because it's almost home to the
and there was a baseball field right across the street.
Yeah, there's a baseball park. So we just thought, hey, it's a sports themed whatever, because we were literally right across the street. And then it's like we go in there, we're like, nope. Yep. This wasn't what we thought it was.
So all these business guys are in there trying to do business, and it's kind of like the distractions are all around you.
And I'm sitting there just kind of like, nope, thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely you ought to probably do a little research before you do things sometimes or go. I mean, it wasn't a bad place. It was, it was like you said.
Yeah, it wasn't like.
I've never been to Twin Peaks, but I know a lot of guys that go.
Twin Peaks is kind of like Hooters. Sure, basically.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that in this world. You probably should do a little research before you go somewhere. That's the thing too, is a lot of people don't realize that planning is a lot to do with saving money and saving time and saving energy, because a lot of people are like holidays. We won't use a specific one, but there's certain ones that come every the same day every year. Okay, so why are we so surprised when it comes up to that time that we've not budgeted and we've not planned ahead, and we're worried because there's some deal out there, there's something we're trying to shop for. And this last year, the PS5 was a big deal, to all the kids, and everybody wanted one and everything. And my wife and I were out at 3:00 in the morning, getting ready to bang, show hands to people out in the line, but it wasn't that experience at all. But we planned ahead, and we actually did some research, and we actually had gotten some inside intel from some folks, and so that kind of worked itself out. But if we had just showed up with the attitude of like, I'm going to be late, I'm going to get there right at 6, because there was people that they opened the doors at 6:00. There was people that got there at like 5:45, and they got in line, and they basically said, sorry, there's only 30 of them, and we were like 16th in line. So there were people that had gotten there before we did.
How early did you get there?
Like 3:30, and I think there was people that had basically been there all night. There was actually a dude underneath the sleeping bag sleeping on the sidewalk. And so, it's funny because a lot of people will be all tore up about something, but they really didn't spend the time or energy, or they get shocked like we did. It's kind of a little shock value for that luncheon we had that day. But, we don't do enough sometimes. I call it due diligence. You don't do enough time in prepping, and it's the same if you're buying a property or if you're starting a business. We were talking about, how we help, do consulting with businesses. And, you and I have done some work with some nonprofits, and we've done a lot of work in helping people put a plan together, help them put a system together or processes together, because I always tell people, Amazon is not selling stuff. Amazon is selling a system. They're selling processes. Amazon is like branched out into even, you see them on NFL now. There's like the AWS system where they can actually clock, how many steps the guy took, how far he ran, how much air he was breathing, and all this stuff just from the, from the data that they collect. And, data is king. If you can gather intelligence, or you can gather data, about your customers, about your clients, and then you have a system or a process, it's kind of like UPS and FedEx, why are they so much better than the post office? I'm not going to say what I think, but they do have a lot of systems and a lot of processes. I
think, like you were saying earlier, going back to the thing of why sometimes people, they want to argue with the cost of something, like you said, like in the short-term rental, it seems like there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't take into account of why this is this price. And a lot of times it's, like you said, cheaper than really what it should be.
Right, exactly. Especially when you're getting to go to a place, a lot of times you go to a hotel, there's 27 other people on your floor, and you might have some dude who's drunk yelling in the hallway at that night.
See, that's for me, like, that's why I am granted, I guess it's hanging out from you, but that's why I'm more in the mindset, I lean more towards going to a short-term rental because of that, because, like I've told you before, I like to fish. So for me, if me and my wife, let's say we want to go on vacation somewhere, if I can get, like, let's say we want to go to the beach, well, that's fine. But if I can get a house to myself where I don't have to worry about, because I got a daughter, I don't have to worry about people above me, below me, on the sides. If I want to sit on the balcony, I can look at the beach, but then it's kind of like, okay, there's other people that can also see me, and it's just this whole, there's people down at the pool, you're trying to enjoy this relaxing view, and it's like, you got kids down in the pool screaming and yelling and stuff. So if I decide, okay, maybe instead of going to the beach, I want to go to the lake or whatever, then it's like, you're paying for an experience, not so much a place to sleep that night. And so for me, I would rather spend a couple extra bucks and basically go somewhere where I basically have the house to myself, don't have to worry about neighbors, don't have to worry about this. Maybe if it's a house that's got a garage, I can pull my car in. There's different factors, and I like what you guys do because y'all take it, I'm not going to give your trade secrets away, but you take it a step further to actually be like, hey, here's some stuff you can sort of do while you're here, and it's like you point people into this direction of having an actual experience. Exactly.
And I think that's the problem that most people forget about.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, people forget about that. And I think with the new generation, I think guys that are your age and younger, you're looking more for the experience of the event. When you go somewhere, you want to act like a local, you want to shop like a local, you want to eat like a local when you go there. Yeah. Right?
People want something, like you said, people want to come in, blend in, get the experience, but they also want something that they can post on Facebook and brag about. And,
exactly. It needs to be Instagram worthy.
You got to take the feet in the sand picture. Or, you got to take the picture of the flaming, whatever it is.
Yeah, my wife and I did the big chair picture while we were down in Destin, and everybody's like, wow, look at the feet on that dude. And it's funny because the angle makes it look like my feet feet are huge, and so it's funny because when you're sitting in that chair and you're making your little memory there, you don't think about, how that memory happened. You just expect for it to happen. When you're there and you're taking your daughter, you don't want to go to the beach and there be 37 extra people there walking and bumping into you and whatever. You want your daughter to have that experience that is a pleasant experience. You don't want to be stuck in traffic the whole time you're there. We live close to one of the top vacation capitals in the world, Gatlinburg and Sevierville and Pigeon Forge area, and I've got properties up there that we manage.
Yeah, it was voted, I was reading the other day, it was voted number 1 in America in like top 5 or top 10 in the world. Or
yes.
something
Oh,
right
it's
now,
amazing.
Gatlinburg.
And the funny thing is a lot of people get there and they've not done their research and they've not thought about it, and they don't talk to a guy like me who kind of knows the area.
Yeah, they just know, Gatlinburg.
Let me just show up, and then they're like,
okay, so there's mountains,
right. And they don't know about Cates Cove, or they don't know about, going over to the peaceful side of the Smoky, or going to eat at a certain restaurant, or, we're barbecue guys. There's a barbecue place over there at the foot of the mountain near some of our cabins that people drive past it and wouldn't even know how great the barbecue is because they didn't ask. Yeah. So I guess it's kind of my job to kind of encourage them to do certain things, and if they have a bad experience, for whatever reason, they get there and they don't have a good check-in process, or they get there and the door lock doesn't work, or, they drive and they get in traffic. You figure when you're in a car, most of us have seen the movie, Vacation, and they drive across country and they have all these things happen. Well, people don't realize that a lot of that experience in the car is not always the best part of the experience. It's not the most pleasant part, being stuck in traffic and all that. So when you get somewhere, you're ready to kind of just sit down and chill. You're just kind of ready to kind of just take a minute to, to collect your thoughts and get going. And the worst thing that happens a lot of times is a property's not prepared properly, or they walk in and there's just things that are not ready for them. Or when they get there, they're like, well, where are we going to go eat? Yeah. Have you ever had that conversation with your wife in the car? How does that go? How does that go?
Normally, although I found a life hack for that, literally the way that we do it, I think I've told you about this before, but if she cannot decide where she wants to go, husbands, this may save your marriage, which, by the way, rock, paper, scissors may also save your marriage, but I'll think of 5 or 6 places I want to go, and I'll say, okay, I want to go to, I'm a name drop, but I want Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, whatever, Hardee's, whatever. I'll list 6 different places, and I'll say, okay, you take away 3. And so she'll be like, okay, so I want Crystal, Hardee's, or Taco Bell. And it's like, all right. And then I'll pick I'll either eliminate one, and then she'll pick the final, or whatever. It's like process of elimination. But there again, I don't know, for some people maybe that's part of the experience, arguing where to go. But for me, it's that whole perceived value of, my time is valuable. So I can save money and go to this place over here and then waste a bunch of time trying to figure that out. Or maybe it's a little further out away from town or whatever. Or I can go somewhere where it's sort of kind of tailored to where I want. And like you said, I think a lot of people just don't research stuff.
Right.
But that's the first thing I did when I went, when we were going to go to Tupelo. I'm like, all right, what's special about Tupelo, or things to do in Tupelo?
Right.
And it basically was like Elvis. I don't remember what the other one, but it was Elvis's birthplace, and I don't know, I think it was like the birthplace of Comcast or something. Right. But what's funny is it popped up Tunica and all those places around. And I was like, oh yeah, Tunica. Yeah. I didn't think about that. Right. Didn't have time to go there, but
sure. And when you go, like, everyone thinks of Memphis as being like the barbecue and the blues capital of the world. They don't realize that there's a lot more stuff to do there. And it's kind of like in our area, where we are. There's things there that they're just like little hidden gems that no one knows about, but we know about it. So, as a short-term, rental guy, it's my job really to kind of plant those seeds and kind of figure out what people are wanting to do, and give them an opportunity to give me feedback and see what's best. Because I know when I go, we go to Myrtle Beach every year. We've been going to Myrtle Beach for years and years and years. It's a tourist trap.
Ours was kind of Myrtle Beach and like Daytona area growing up.
Right.
It was one of those.
Sure. Normally. And so when we go there, we know the 4 or 5 places we want to go to every time. We know that. But there's a time or two where I'm like, let's try something new. And we've tried things that are new before, and I don't like scallops today because of a restaurant I ate at, and I used to love
I
scallops.
feel like I remember this story.
You know, and what's funny about it is we tried to go somewhere different that was out of our comfort zone, and you know, we just went on basically what we saw online in a review or two and a couple of things. Oh, it's got the best whatevers.
I went with you one year when you guys went to Hilton Head, and what's funny is the one thing I remember about that trip, out of everything else, we stayed in a really nice bungalow, all that stuff. The one thing I remember was them peanut butter donuts. You remember those?
Peanut butter donuts.
That when I'm like, because literally, like, I've never even had a peanut butter donut because most people don't do it because of nut allergy, I guess. Mm-hmm. And y'all come walking back in with them peanut butter donuts, and I was like,
oh yeah,
my life just started.
I was gonna tell you.
I didn't know that this.
I've got a donut story if you want to hear it.
To quote Toby Mac, I didn't know such bliss existed.
Exactly. I can tell you my donut story from this last trip. Every time we go to Destin, of course, I've got properties down there, so if you want to go down that way, obviously talk to me.
Every place Fort Myers, Bennett's Fresh Roast and Donuts. I think every vacation spot I know of.
It better have a good donut place. It better have a good donut spot. And this one's called Donut Hole, and I'm just going to endorse because honestly, if they want to pay me an endorsement for this later, I'd be happy to give them the endorsements. But for free, I'm just going to tell you what's great about it. You know, we roll up down there every time we go to Destin, and we always get something while we're there, donuts while we're there, and we get something when we leave, and I bring it home. And so we've had a little trouble getting them home here and there because you put them in a plastic bag like they tell you and you seal it up. Not the best choice. Okay, I figured that one out the hard way. So this last time I put them,
as far as the transportation.
The transportation, trying to get them home, they get a little mushy and they just don't stay the same. So what I did this last time is I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the donuts the night before. I'm gonna put them in my hotel room and I'm gonna put them like over near the air conditioner. And they're going to stay like right there in that area. And so, you know, I protected these things like they were precious cargo. They rode beside me, shotgun in the seat. I'd rented a nice car, brand new car, man. It was awesome. That's the other thing about knowing people. Know people, because knowing people helps you out. I got a good deal, and I got a great car. Somebody that we've been doing business with for a long time, and I drove a really nice car down there. But what the moral of the story is sometimes, you know, you learn things as you go. But what's funny is I got them all the way home. And my dad had to pick me up in his pickup truck to pick me up to go get my car, you know, to get back to my mom and dad to the house to my car. And what's funny about it is, you know, I had these donuts and this cake riding shotgun with me the whole way home. Well, when I got out and I put a few things in the box with them, I got home and the daggum cake had like the icing mashed to the top of the box after I had spent all this energy and all this time. So I got to find a better way. And it's all about creating a process and a system here because I got to get my stuff home in one shape.
You almost need like a donut, almost like a Yeti or something. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, maybe you could give us some advice on how we can transport our donuts or our cake.
You know, because I mean, dude, like hot donuts, I can eat like 47.
No kidding, no kidding.
When they're like lukewarm, little, you know, been sitting out for a minute, I can eat like not quite as many, maybe like 45. But
right.
if they're hot, 47. I mean,
sure.
But yeah, every vacation place, that's like the one, the Krispy Kreme over there where Kingsapike and North Shore meet across from Duck Donuts. Mm-hmm. It's like every time I drive by that when the hot sign's always on. Now, Duck Donuts, that's where, if you're in Knoxville, don't get me wrong, I can endorse some other ones, but that's probably the best maple bacon donut I've ever had. I don't know. We may even have
we got properties in Knoxville too, so just, you know, hit me up and I'll tell you all the cool hot spots here in Knoxville, Tennessee, over here in East Tennessee where we just country people. You know, we've got a lot of things, you know, that are going on in our lives every day, and you know, I get back to, you know, when we're talking about saving ourselves time and energy and having peace of mind. Give me your success story for that. Give me your formula for that, or your system for kind of how that works.
Like the balance.
Yeah, just how do you balance all that in your life personally, man?
Honestly, sometimes not that great, but I mean, for me, it's a matter.
When it's working for you, what are you doing? When it's
clicking for me, it's a matter of you have to spend time and energy on it, and you have to put yourself second, because there's times where, you know, it's like, even your dogs, your animals, mm-hmm. you know, you walk in and sometimes they've peed all over the floor, they've tore up your favorite shoes and boots. And like, one thing about animals is they're like children, man. Like, they start acting out to get attention if you're not showing them enough attention. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's just a conscientious effort of every chance and opportunity that I can get, I try to take. Just like last night, I knew that we were going to be prepping for today, and so I had to prep for this. I was also tired and exhausted. My daughter was not feeling good. She was in a daddy mood. I wanted to spend time with my wife. I could have came straight in and I could have started prepping for this and said, well, I got to prep for this. This is important. I got to get my sleep, whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, as a balance, it's like, okay, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, I got home early, which was nice, but I got home early. But even if I didn't, which normally I get home around 7, I try to be in bed by 8:30, but realistically, most time it's 9:30. But so for me, I'm thinking, okay, how can, and again, going back to time being valuable, getting the most bang for your buck, getting the most value for, your time and stuff. I'm like, okay, I come in, I sit down. First thing I do is like, I'm like, all right, I'll work on that stuff later. I pick my daughter up, and she's sitting on the couch with me. I let my dog come up. He's sitting in between my legs. So it's like, okay, I'm giving both of them attention while I'm also sitting here talking to my wife. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, we got to where now we like to sit and watch The Prophet every night. But mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, so we put The Prophet on, and I make it a point, or I try my best to, if I'm doing family time, I make it a point to set the phone down, because right. I don't want to water down the time I'm spending with them and mm-hmm. devalue that time. Right. Because otherwise there's no point in me doing it. So I try to leave my phone down, try to, leave it sitting over there. We're watching TV, I'm spending time with them, I'm sitting there eating, and then my daughter ended up actually falling asleep early. So then it was like, once she fell asleep, okay, now let me spend some time with just my wife. Again, I got my dog sitting on my lap. I'm sort of trying to go out of my way to pet him and stuff. Right. That way he feels like he's getting his attention. Talking to my wife, giving her some attention. And we ended up, there's this awesome new documentary on Netflix. I think it's like number 1 or number 2 right now. But it's like, I think it's called Murdered by Mormons or mm-hmm. something, or mm-hmm. Murder of, I don't know. But we sit down, we watch an episode of that. Boom, she goes to sleep. And all this, I think by like 9:30, I think she was pretty much asleep. And so I showered, and then I sat down for like an hour, and from like, I think 10 to 11 or 9:30 to 10:30, whatever, I sit down and I prep my notes and I do all that stuff that I want to mm-hmm. do. And so it's a matter of, you just have to literally focus on making it a point to say, okay, I've got 2 hours here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give them, if you got something that's pressing that you have to do, fine, but it's like, okay, I'm at least going to give them 30 minutes of solid time. But when I do that, I've got to make sure that it's solid. I can't mm-hmm. be sitting there playing on my phone. But
right.
Okay, it's 27 minutes. I'm getting,
right.
So I just, and sometimes I'm not the best at it. Sometimes, because at work I can't be on my phone. But right. So there's times where I'm sitting there and I'm kind of, mm-hmm. But it's just, you have to focus and make it a point to say, and I think you have to put timetables on it. When you come home, if you get home at 6 and you're wanting to go to bed at 8:30, then you have to say, okay, I've got to leave 30 minutes for this, so let me hang out with my family, eat, and we'll watch our favorite show all at the same time. Right. Now I've got time, and it's just, you just right. have to make it a point to like focus on it. But I mean, I'm not the best at it all the time.
You almost have to work at being a good dad. You almost have to work at being a good businessman. You almost have to work at, planning your time so you can actually appreciate those times. Because honestly, what I feel like many times in our lives, we talked to my son last night. He's a 14-year-old football player. You've interviewed him before on your podcast, and on the Humble Wolf podcast, and he's so driven in his life in some areas, but there's other times where I think he just wants to be a kid. Yeah. And it's the same with us. I mean, we're so driven sometimes in life, I think, but sometimes we still just want to be relaxed. We just want to have a life that we can appreciate and we can enjoy. And the problem is sometimes I feel like, we'll put off certain things that are important to have this other time, and then we realize that it just makes things harder down the road. It makes things harder, if we don't spend enough energy preparing for things. And again, I think that's preparing for even the times of fun and pleasure.
Well, like you said, there's times where I'll come home and I'm thinking, I've got to get this done. This is something that's pressing. It's mm-hmm. important, mm-hmm. whether it's, there's a podcast right now, a separate podcast besides the Humble Wolf that I've got to record, or, maybe there's a graphic I need to design, or, fishing shirts from a fishing brand or whatever. There's something I'm thinking, man, I got to get that done today. And the whole time I'm thinking, all right, yeah, that's going to be priority when I get home. And then I come in and my daughter's just like all over me because she's like in a daddy mood, and so it's like, it would be very easy for me to say, no, not right now, I got to get this done. But realistically, it's like I'm trying to be successful to take care of her and my wife. So if I put them to the side, then what's the point of even doing it?
Sure, absolutely.
And so it's like, like you said, and I'm looking at it, if she's like in a me mood and really wanting attention from me, then I probably didn't give her enough somewhere else along the line, which is also on me.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
Like you said, it's you put things off now and then they end up coming to a head later, and it's going to be way worse. And sometimes people will spend twice as much time trying to do half the job.
Exactly.
Half the time.
Have you ever worked with guys like that? They'll spend their whole day not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like literally, you'll watch guys. I mean, what was the song, our band that we used to have talk about getting buggies?
Oh yeah, getting buggies.
Yeah, that whole getting buggies philosophy. Well, I'll be outside getting buggies, or I'll, shopping carts, depending on what you call them from where you're from. But that's the dude that's always trying his best. He'll be on the clock for 8 hours and he will accomplish absolutely nothing because he works harder at not working.
Yeah.
Then if he just would do his job, he could go home and he could probably, his day would go by quicker.
Or you get it's like I worked with a guy one time that he had no rhyme or reason to anything he was doing, and so there'd be like 5 things he'd have to do. He'd have to like run trash, go to Dollar General and pick up, pick up something for work, and then he'd want to go to like Pilot to get cigarettes, and then there'd be like 5 different things that he wanted to accomplish within a certain amount of time, and it's like, we would hop in and go down to the Pilot to get cigarettes. And it's like, well, dude, why didn't we did you get the card to get the stuff from Dollar General? No, we got to get that. So then it's like we come back, get the card, run back out to the Dollar General. We drove past, and I'm thinking, like, I get it, but I'm like, it's one of those things. There again, it's like, okay, I get it. You're wanting to sort of drag this out, but at the same time, you're sort of wasting your existence.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, we'll go over here and do the track. And it's like, I'm thinking, dude, you could have literally went whoop and been done with all of that and been on to something else.
Right.
And it's like, no, I'm going to drag this out as long as possible. And I'm like,
right.
To me, it takes sometimes more energy.
It's like, almost more work.
It's like, and I think about things differently, but it's like over at work one time, they were talking about paving the parking lot. Well, we had these people show up and they had all the concrete and stuff ready to go. They had these big presses, and it was a concrete company, and they were hung up on the idea that it was leftover concrete. It was leftover from a job that they had, and it was just sitting there. And they're going to charge us like $1,500 to pave our entire lot, which is, I don't even know, probably 200 square yards or something. I don't know. It's a big lot.
Right.
And we got potholes all over the place. And they're going to charge us like $1,500 to just drop it, stamp it, and be done with it. And I'm like, and they didn't want to do it because they couldn't get hung up on, well, it shouldn't cost that much. It's just leftover concrete.
Right,
and
exactly.
I'm like, right, but we can have it done in one whack. So
sure.
they decided to go get, I forgot, it was like 25, 30 bags of concrete, 25 or 35 bags, something like that. And they ended up spending, I think it was $500 to $700 in materials for 2 holes.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, it took 2 guys at, we'll say 15 an hour, because that's probably going to be the minimum now. At 15 an hour, it took 2 guys, I think, a total of like 16 hours. So now you've got this $500 to $700 in materials plus 30 an hour for 2 guys times at least 10 to 12 hours. And so I'm like, you spent about the same amount to get 2 holes done when you could have just spent this and had your whole entire parking lot done.
Because they were locked up in that it was a...
Yeah, they could not get past the fact of it was leftover concrete from a job and I'm like, yeah, but you got 2 dudes here.
Right.
You got the concrete, and they had like all these big presses that one would drop the concrete and the other one would steamroll it.
Right.
And we would have been done with it. Had the whole parking lot maybe 2-3 hours and freed these 2 guys up to where they could have went and done whatever else they needed.
They could have used the parking lot and made money on the parking lot, because that's what you guys do. You use your parking lot to make money.
Well, but and the other 2 guys could have been running trash or doing other stuff.
Right.
But they ended up for 2 holes spending almost the same amount. And it's like I couldn't wrap my brain around it. But again, it's that whole perceived value.
Right.
If you just look at the dollar line,
Mm-hmm.
or you just look at it for what it is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I like I said, it shocks me to this day, because I'm like, for $1,500, we could have had an entire 200 yards worth of concrete parking
Right.
lot redone, and it would have
Right.
been immaculate. But like, no, we're not going to do that. We'll just do it this way. And it's like,
And if you patch a pothole, you know it's coming back.
and
It's coming back.
we're also looking at total probably 12 to 18 potholes,
Mm-hmm.
and they spent almost the same on 2.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's just, I mean, like I said, it's perceived value
Right.
I mean, and we've talked about that.
Right. People don't care how the Amazon package gets to their house. They just want it to get there. But they don't understand what went into getting it there as quick as they can get it there.
Right.
And that's the problem with most people is they want to have the convenience, and they want to have the value and the, people perceive value differently too, because we have properties that are like, $49 a night. They're value properties, and that's all they are. They're little 1-bedroom efficiency little things, and they're really, there's nothing fancy about them except for the decorations. The owner's wife decorates these things out to the max. I mean, they're beautiful. Okay, she spends they spend the money to make them right, and they make them comfortable, and they smell good, and they look good. And the thing is that, but it's weird. It's because the people that stay at like our bigger, fancier properties, you'll have a little bit different attitude because they're paying a little more. Their expectation is a little more, but for some reason, it's like when you got folks that come sometimes for their smaller properties, and no offense to some, because it might be basically, the major folks out there that have done all the studies on these things say about 15% of people, no matter what you do, are still going to give you a bad review. So remember that if you're ever looking at a review, there's 15% of people out there that are never going to give you the review that you deserve. So it doesn't matter if you bend over backward, like, we got people that want to check in early, check out late, people that want to, have certain things done and whatever. And then you get a review from them and it's like a 4 or a 3 and you're like,
or like,
are you kidding me?
You'll get a 3-star review, and it'll be like, took 45 minutes for the pizza to get there. We were out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like,
sure. So it's not my problem. Not really my job. I can't control that.
How can I make your pizza get there sooner?
Sure, absolutely.
I can't.
And it's funny because people, like I said, they have a perceived value of things, and sometimes it's like, well, I'm getting this place, and and maybe to them it's a lot of money. I don't know. Maybe that's in their budget. Maybe $50 or $60 a night is what their budget is, and they're living somewhere in a place. Maybe they thinking, well, this cost my family, $300 to stay here this week, and this is
So
whatever.
From on the opposite side of that, right? So you being a hoster, right? So let's say you've got a property that you feel like is more than affordable, and you get a customer that's wanting to come, and in their head they're like, what would be your advice of how, if that, let's say that's like a lot of money to them to come into that property, like what would be your advice on like ways that they could sort of get their bang for their buck instead of just like picking at the people that's hosting the property?
Sure, absolutely. I think having a good plan before you get there. But again, when you're, we don't spare expense on like the amenities of our properties, even though they're value properties. I mean, really, I know what we make on them. I know the profit margins that are on things that we do, and it's still a good margin. But again, when you're getting basically a 200 square foot property, and it is what it is. And then people are asking, well, does it have a dishwasher? Does it have a washer and a dryer? Does it have? And what they don't realize is as you add those amenities to them, that becomes another expense, because people don't realize that there's normal wear and tear, there's excessive wear and tear, and then there's just ongoing maintenance that happens. And so if they're doing their trip around the place to stay being the cheap thing, then you almost have to say to them, okay, what are your expectations? Because if your expectations are for this to be a 5-star luxury hotel, which I'll get into reviews one day when I talk about that on another show or episode on one of mine or yours or whatever. But if you're looking for a 5-star stay, and you paid $39-$49 a night for it, you're going to get that experience of what you paid for. And I treat all the properties the same. I treat them as if they were my own. And I treat all my guests as if they were my family members. Not that I cuss them out like I would my family members, or I would, what I'm saying, or call them on the phone and say, you're a bad person.
It would be beneficial for them to basically adopt two mentalities of either stay cheap, like find a place that's got a washer and dryer and all that, stay cheap, but just use it as like a base where you literally lay your head at night, and that's basically it.
Sure.
Or spend a little bit more, and maybe it doesn't have a washer and dryer or whatever, but maybe you just like save a little bit of money there and only pack a certain number of outfits and stuff. Like,
right.
Like
exactly.
if you're,
there's a trade-off in everything in this world, and I think that's where we're heading with this. Is there's a trade-off. You're either going to sleep there or you're going to live there. And if you're going to live there, it may as well take a little bit more time to think about and make sure that it has. And we're open to questions, man. We are always open to questions in our business, and we're always open to people giving us advice. We love feedback because feedback is what helps all of us grow. If I put a crappy product out there, or my cleaner didn't do a good job, or someone on my team didn't do their part, because we want every guest to have a 5-star experience, even though it may not be at what's considered a 5-star property on the level of how you rate value. But what we're looking for is to always have someone, when they leave, they were satisfied with their stay. They were satisfied with their check-in experience, that the place was clean. Even if it's a modest place, it's still, they were treated the same way as if I have someone staying in my $3,000 a night properties. You know what I'm saying?
It's basically like communications about
exactly.
Sort of thing.
That has a lot to do with it.
If there's little deficiencies in the property or whatever, as a customer or a hostee, you just need to communicate what it is that you're looking for out of both sides.
We have people sometimes that'll come and stay with us, and we send out these little emails and little things throughout their stay, and we're actually working on a better system, and I'll talk about that sometime down the road. But we'll actually send something out the first night they're there within a couple hours, and we'll say, hey, how's your stay? We want to make sure all of our guests are having a 5-star experience. We want to make sure that you're comfortable. Please definitely reach out to us if there's a problem. Well, I've had people say, well, hey, we love it so much, we want to extend our stay, or can we stay a little later? Can we have a late checkout? And you want to feel sorry for people, or you want to feel not really sorry. Maybe it's like, yeah, you got this situation going on, or, hey, I love it so much, I want to stay. Well, I had a lady do this the other day, and I gave her an early check-in, gave her a late checkout. I worked around it, and I was like, look, cleaner's got to hustle. I'm going to let you stay an extra hour. She had all these things going on. And, her idea in her head was, I was going to get, and I was give. And then it came up about, 12 hours before she left, and she sent me a laundry list of things that actually were wrong with the property. And I'm thinking, okay, number one, you wanted to extend. Number two, you got to check in early, which cost us money, cost us time. You got to stay late, it cost us money and time. And I didn't charge you for those things. Those are value that we added. Now, on top of that, I actually walked the property prior to you checking in personally. When I do that, I know that the property's right. And I take pictures, so I have documentation. And so people they'll send you something thinking, well, I'll get one over on you. No, you didn't get one over on me that day. You might on another day when I can't get the pictures. Or I can't do this or that.
That's why you're short-term.
Exactly. So what happens is a lot of times is people want to get all they can out of it for the money that they paid, which I totally understand, because I'm the same way. Yeah. But when you go to an extent of almost making like threats or extortion, I'm going to leave you a bad review because you did this or that wrong. And I'm thinking, well, you can leave the bad review, but guess what? I get to answer that back. So once you put that on there, I get to answer it right back. And I get to tell my side of the story. So I think the review process, like I said, I'll talk about that in an episode down the road. But, the review process needs to be looked at because people almost use it as leverage. And so I guess if I could sum up everything that we kind of talked about today, is just kind of talk a little bit about, what is the actual value, or what is the actual budget that you have? What's the actual value of what you're looking for? And then, what is your expectation for that? Because I'd almost rather know someone's expectation is higher so I can deliver.
At least try to get
at least not what, because I'm always going to have what I call the line of standards.
Or heck, for that matter, just recommend them to a better
that's
property.
The thing too. Sometimes it's better to cut your losses. I've fired clients before. I've fired people, and you don't want to deny somebody a stay at your property, but you may tell them, look, because living in a rural area, we have snow, and people that come, they think, well, we're just going to roll up here in our little car and we're going to load in our suitcase and a couple
I remember you had one bad review because of the snow.
Exactly. I don't control the weather.
You're in the mountains.
Exactly. And on top of that, we recommend you bring a 4-wheel drive. We tell you to bring chains or a good vehicle that can go in the snow, because when you're in an area, for instance, if you're at the beach, hurricanes happen, weather happens. You might get evacuated. It's the same with if you're staying in a rural area, if you're staying in a ski resort, if you're staying somewhere that's different, that has a different sort of feel to it. If you're on like a main strip somewhere, there's probably not as much to worry about. But if you're getting off the beaten path sometimes, like, we got properties that are, 15 miles off of the main drag and off the main road, and people think, well, I'm going to stay here and I want to stay in this certain area. They don't realize they're 15 miles from the other place. So we try to do our best to communicate that to them. We try to communicate to them that, hey, these are on a well, and these are not properties where you're getting city water. These are properties where you're, they're in a rural area. And so along with that I had a customer one time say, well, I didn't expect to see a bear. I wasn't prepared for that. Well, you're in their territory. Yeah, they lived here first. We built around them. So you try to manage as much of those expectations as you can. And if I was talking to a guest or a client, I would say, look, you need to manage your expectations on your end. Communicate that to the owner, to the manager, to the host.
Like I said, there might be times where maybe you can recommend them to either a colleague, or maybe you have a better property that's only just a little bit more. You're like, well, hey, if that's what you're looking for. Now this one's 20 miles further away, but it's got all the amenities.
It's got everything you're looking for. Correct.
I think that's
so when we're creating a system and a process, we are always looking to better that. And so in our own personal lives, I think we covered it a little earlier, we need to always be preparing ourselves for our perceived value of something. And I believe that with all my heart, because I know that, I know around holidays, or, if it's your birthday and you got one of those big birthdays coming up, the 30s, the 40s, the 21st, an anniversary, pandemic happened in our life. The pandemic happened in our business, your business, everyone's business has been affected by that. And see, our expectations are so high sometimes, because we think something's going to have to go a certain way, or we go on a vacation that we know we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. We have a holiday, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to eat these things. Aunt Susan brings the sweet tea and she brings the potato salad, and everything's got to be so perfect sometimes that we forget that, we need to maybe stop and think about what part we play in things, and sometimes we have to do what we did this past year, you and I did, as a pandemic pivot. Sometimes we have to pivot our thinking and understand that there's a lot of things that go into preparing for life, preparing for our vacation, preparing for our businesses, preparing for things.
You're talking about preparing, I know, or the other day they were talking about doing a new stimulus that's supposed to be rolled out in a few weeks or whatever. And I'm like, there's people that, I know you and me, we use our stimulus like smart, like we reinvested in stuff. Like every stimulus that I've had, I've actually used to get ahead. I don't know if I told you or not, but which we can talk about on the next podcast. But I actually got my credit score. It went from like a 390 or something at some point. It's actually at 620 now. I finally hit that magic mark of like being able to, like once you hit 620, you can get a house and do a lot of stuff. But the pandemic, like I said, I don't know anybody else other than you that's got ahead during the pandemic. Literally, I paid stuff off, got my credit score up. It's been great. Sure. It's been great for me.
Right, I hang out with a lot of people who took the pandemic as an opportunity.
Right, and it's like, and that's what I think people don't understand about how the rich always get richer. I was having a conversation with this yesterday or the day before, actually. People were talking about how, basically like I was talking about how the rich get richer and taxes and stuff, and it's like, people don't understand, like, once you're about to hit that next tax bracket, like we've talked about it, a lot of times people will donate money, or they'll figure out a way to bring it down so they don't hit that next tax bracket of having to pay 35% or 40 or whatever, whatever it is. But the reason why rich people get richer is they're constantly thinking, how can I build on this? How they're constantly thinking about money and growth, and they're not sitting around playing Xbox all day or watching 10 hours of Netflix or whatever. And it's like me, it drives my wife crazy, but I'm constantly thinking. It drove her crazy because first thing when I hit 620, she's wanting to get a house, and I'm wanting to buy a duplex.
Right.
That I can rent out and make
Because you're
money
thinking
on.
about it as an opportunity to make money.
Yeah, it drives her crazy, but that's just how people think.
Sure. And again, I mean, it's all in what you're wanting and your expectation out of life, you know. And so, you know, it's like me. I work with a lot of investors. Okay, we have people right now. I have investors from California, Georgia, Alabama. I start losing track of where they're all from, and these are all people who want to manage their properties remotely, and they want me to be like their go-between, their trusted advisor, you know. And I do a lot of that. And, you know, I get in the process, but what most of these people have taught me about this is that it's not always about the personal attachment to it. It's about having something there that is a tangible asset for them to be able to use to grow themselves. And, you know, the same thing with stimulus. I mean, yeah, I can go buy a new TV. I could.
Jordans.
You know, I could go buy me a kayak, or I could, for that matter, I could just go blow it on something. Well, you know, if I get stimulus money, which, you know, I'm not always sure I'm going to get it because there's, you know, we didn't get the second one forever and ever, amen. But by this new one that's supposed to be coming out, I may not get it because I may be on that threshold, you know. And I'm not. That's not a braggadocious statement. That's just I may be getting to that threshold, and so you got to be careful, you know, to not overplan, you know, and say, well, I'm going to count this money in my budget, but I've already decided what I'm going to do with it. My wife and I have already decided what we're going to do with it. You know, we did some remodeling. Here. We did things that built our life, and so I think the biggest problem, you know, with most people is they don't think about how they can build something up with it. They always think about, well, what is the want that I have right now?
Yeah, what do I
It's not a need or what can
afford.
actually, you know, one thing that I've learned from the owner that I work very closely with, and I manage a lot of his properties, is he's always leveraging money. And he would take a stimulus check if he got it. I don't know if he gets one or not. I don't know. I think his income might be too much, but I'm saying that he's that kind of guy. If he got a stimulus check, he's going to be taking that bad boy and leveraging it. He's going to be leveraging it for something else. You know, he's going to be finding a way to take that and turn it into something else. And, you know, I think that's the biggest thing is we always find ourselves in situations where we have opportunities, where we have extra money, or we'll have extra time, or we'll have some extra energy, like this new weight loss thing for me. I have so much energy now. And it's actually scary because I've already got the mind that's going. Now I got the body that doesn't want to sit down. And it's like, you know, I'm going full speed all the time. So for me, I got to channel that energy into something positive. And I've got to channel my resources and my time and my energy, my money into something positive. And, you know, in the industry that I'm in, you know, you don't have a lot of free time because you're on the phone 24/7. Or you're at least available if you're not on the phone. And so I really have learned that a lot of this is just rising to the challenge and taking an opportunity that's given to you and take it to the next level. And I don't know how that matters today, but that's just what I want to say.
Speaking of positivity, there's one thing I've been dying to ask, and I told you I was going to ask you during the podcast, but every time we stop, you're always looking for like pennies and coins and stuff. And you started to tell me about it, and I was like, dude, don't tell me. Let's save it for a podcast. But it's killing me to know. Which actually, this is like the fourth time we've recorded video, and it never seems to make it. So we're recording video.
Sure, hopefully we'll get some today. Right.
Yeah, I want to know what it is. Because just backstory. Anytime we stop, doesn't matter. Literally, there's been twice we've been going through a drive-through, and you will park your van and hop out because you see coins, and you're like, oh, it's like my new thing. I was like, all right, don't tell me until we get on the podcast. But I've been dying to know. So what is it with, like, when you stop and you see the coins? What's the thing behind that? Because like I've been dying to know.
Well, the coin thing started with a couple of years ago when I couldn't bend over, and I used to get so mad because, you know, I was heavy and I couldn't bend over, and I couldn't pick stuff up off the ground. I mean, I could, but it was painful, just to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and so once I got this weight loss, I started looking around me and I started seeing people don't pick stuff up for me anymore. People that know me still try to do it, and it makes me mad, so they don't. Like my wife last night, something fell out of the refrigerator and opened the door, and she was reading. I was like, don't you pick that up? I'm getting that. But what it is with the coin thing, it's like I see opportunity. You know, and I've been collecting coins, and I got this big old huge, you know, one of them big old huge jars.
You got a bunch in your van.
And I got a bunch in my van, and I got a bunch in my van. I got a bunch in my car, my wife's van. I got coins everywhere because I see that as an opportunity. I don't see it now as a walk over a penny. You know, they used to say, well, you got to luck is its own heads or whatever. So basically what started happening with that for me is I just started collecting them just because,
Because you could.
Because I can now, and I couldn't before. And so now if I walked across a penny now and I didn't pick it up, I would feel weird because there was so many years that I would walk across it and be like, oh, it's just a penny. But now to me, a penny is a penny.
Is there like a good luck element to it, like a good fortune? I don't want to pass up this opportunity that the universe has given me. I don't want to forget where I come from.
Right.
Is it kind of
it is kind of a humbling thing. It is kind of another thing of just saying to me, it's just reestablishing every day and every time I do it that it's one more step in the right direction, because I have had financial difficulties. I have had health problems. I have had businesses fail.
Money that you
and
literally
it's
wouldn't
stuff.
have before.
Well, it's money that someone else has thrown away, and they don't care about it anymore. I found a $20 bill one time at a Kroger that was just floating across the ground. I'm sure somebody probably would have missed the $20 bill, but guess what?
Well, maybe not.
It was it's in my jar forever and ever, amen. I think one of the kids might have got it out and took it for lunch or something. But you understand what I'm saying? I mean, it went in my jar because it was money that I didn't have, and now I got it. And so I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I guess it's one of those crazy weird things as you grow older and as you get more in life, you start becoming, I guess, a little bit more conscious of yourself and conscious of what's going on around you. And and when you've got opportunities, you should take them. And so. It's like I said, if I walked across one of them now, or I didn't look while I'm out, because gas stations are a great place to find. I probably shouldn't say this because people are going to be looking for all my coins now.
You're going to start a worldwide,
hopefully there's a trend out there that people start saying, because, you got places saying now, well, we're not going to take cash anymore. And I'm like, well, I give them cash just because I'm like, you're going to give me change back, and then I hear, well, do you want to round that up? Well, no, I don't want to round it up. I want my change back, because why do I want to give you the money? Now, if it's for a charity or something I support, yeah, but just because they say, do you want to round it up to give to this certain organization?
It goes back to
I believe that we got to give out of our heart.
And out of our excess as well. A lot of people forget that they'll just give and give and give and give and give.
Sure.
And give the shirt off their back, and then it's like, okay, well, now I don't have a shirt. And it's like, we know people that put themselves out.
Right,
so,
exactly.
But, so I think we're pretty much getting to the end of it. I learned this actually from Guy Kawasaki's Interesting People podcast, but he always says at the very end, is there a question that you didn't get asked that you wish would get asked, or something we didn't cover?
Good question.
I always thought that was great, because he'll ask you at the very end, is there a question that I didn't ask you today that you would like to be asked, and if so, or something that you didn't want to cover? Just be positive, pick up your pennies.
Yeah, be positive, pick up your pennies. Make a boast of every opportunity. I think that's the biggest challenge. Yeah, watch the news less. Don't pay attention to all the propaganda and all the stuff that's out there.
I'm not getting into the science versus nature versus nurture debate or anything like that. What I'm saying is people that sit around and watch the news all day, that's letting life pass them by and feeding into negativity. There's stuff going on in the world that, you should be aware of. I'm not going to debate on whether the masks work or don't work or anything like that, but what I'm saying is I think people tend to sit around and just feed into negativity for no reason.
Exactly.
So get out and social distance and walk around a little bit.
Right. Wear your mask. Do the things. Stay clean. Wash your hands.
Rep your brand.
Do what you and I have been doing for years before we ever met this, minus the mask. We've always been those kind of guys that we believe in being clean and washing your hands and doing that sort of thing. And I'm like, I don't understand why that was such a huge foreign concept to people. You know what I'm saying? It just was. But, I just say move forward, man. Do a pandemic pivot for the positive. That's my new thing. The PPP for me, the PPE for people, it's like, positive energy, positivity, take this thing and move forward with it. Don't try to sit around and worry about what's happening to you. Happen to it. Make it happen for you. Happen to it. There's problems with people because they always sit around thinking something's happening to them, and it's not. Yeah. Life is happening for us. It's just what we choose to do for it.
Well, if you're following me at the _ Humble Wolf, don't forget the _. It's very important. Also, you can go to thehumblewolf.com. You got too many things I can't keep up.
Yeah, you go with the Short Term Pro. You can come on Facebook at Short Term Pro, # Short Term Pro. You can actually find my new webpage that's coming up really soon, shorttermpro.com. And, you can reach out to me. I got some freebies. I got some giveaways. And, I'm going to give away a few other items as we go along. And so if you want to be on my mailing list, because I'm going to pick random people from here and there, and I'm going to give out some free stuff. And so it's always good to chat with you, and it's always good to kind of catch up.
This is kind of a hybrid podcast. We're kind of sort of like
marrying
doing
the two for a
doing
minute.
a podcast for each other that's probably going to end up on both of them. But yeah, there's not. It's weird because it's like neither of us can sign off because we just
Sure.
just sit around. And
Let's
talk
just
today.
sort of go out like that.
There goes my baby.